Hello and welcome to Fox News at Night. I'm Shannon Bream in Washington. We begin tonight with Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge on the Democrats' newest plans to investigate the president as the Justice Department spells out very clearly exactly what's going on with its investigation into the investigators.
The House Judiciary Committee's Democratic chairman said the Justice Department deal guaranteed access to more special counsel records about alleged obstruction by President Trump.
We have reached an agreement to review at least some of the evidence underlying the Mueller report, including interview notes, firsthand accounts of misconduct, and other critical evidence.
The Democrats wanted testimony from former White House counsel Don McGahn, who was directed by the administration not to cooperate, citing executive privilege implications, which protect presidential communications. In a statement, the Justice Department said it was, quote, pleased the committee set aside its contempt resolution, returning to the traditional accommodation process. But Nadler said a resolution allowing Democrats to sue in civil court is still moving ahead.
It is my expectation that as a result of this authorization, Mr. McGahn will testify before long.
Republicans said the Democrats' decision to call Nixon White House counsel John Dean and two other witnesses with no direct knowledge of the Russia probe abused congressional rules and lacked credibility.
This committee is now hearing from the 70s, and they want their star witness back. I believe that they have the Godfather here today.
That Mr. McGahn represents not Donald Trump, but the office of the president. And I think he owes that office his testimony before this committee.
Several hours into the testimony, President Trump weighed in.
John's been a loser for a long time. We know that. I think he was disbarred and he went to prison. Other than that, he's doing a great job.
While Republicans characterized this week's hearing as mock impeachment or impeachment light, witnesses took aim at the administration.
If anyone other than a president of the United States committed this conduct, he would be under indictment today for multiple acts of obstruction of justice.
That the president occupies a unique position in our constitutional structure, and that some laws apply differently to him and some don't apply at all, at least when there has been no clear statement by Congress that the law should apply to him.
Unless there's a last-minute hitch, the resolution will be ready for a full House vote tomorrow afternoon. And while not strictly a contempt resolution, it will allow Democrats to sue to enforce subpoenas for the Attorney General and former White House counsel. Shannon?
Catherine Herridge on the Hill, thank you very much. Okay, tonight, the Justice Department is promising a broad, multifaceted review into the origins of the Russia investigation. As the House Judiciary Committee was holding its Mueller report hearing today, no Mueller there. The DOJ informed Chairman Jerry Nadler, quote, the Attorney General looks forward to obtaining a better understanding of the critical period leading up to the 2016 presidential election. As the U.S. approaches another election season, it would be most prudent to timely draw upon the lessons learned from our recent history. All right, let's discuss today's developments with former Chief Counsel for the House Judiciary Committee, Julian Epstein, and RNC Committee woman for California, Harmeet Dhillon, two of our best legal eagles. Great to have you with us tonight.
Good evening, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon. Happy to be here.
I want to read a little bit more of this letter from the Assistant Attorney General. He says the review is broad in scope, talking about this U.S. Attorney Durham, who is looking into all these things, and is intended to illuminate open questions regarding the activities of U.S. and foreign intelligence services, as well as non-governmental organizations and individuals. Harmeet, who should be worried tonight?
Democrats should be worried who were in the Obama administration and any Democrats who participated in what is clearly a vast conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2016 election even before that election occurred. And also high-ranking employees of the Department of Justice, but more at the FBI, who engaged in this conspiracy, misled courts, misused our surveillance powers against American citizens, and generally betrayed their oaths. And I think those people need to be very scared tonight because Mr. Durham has been given space in the main office of the DOJ and staff. And he is serious, and I think heads are going to roll at the end of this process, Shannon.
Well, you're not the only one who thinks so. Congressman Mark Meadows said this yesterday on Fox.
Bill Barr is serious about making sure that we reestablish the reputation of the FBI and the Department of Justice. And I can tell you that unless someone actually goes to jail, most of the people will think that accountability didn't happen. But I believe, based on the documents I've seen, that crimes were committed and people need to go to jail.
Julian, do you think anyone's going to jail over this, the origins of the investigation?
I doubt it. I mean, 17 intelligence agencies all agreed that the Russians approached members of the Trump administration. It was a legitimate counterintelligence investigation. The FISA warrants, they were exercised 4 times by 4 different Republican judges in the FISA court. 3 times they were pursued by the Trump Justice Department. I tend to doubt it, but I'm all for letting all the facts get out on the table. As you pointed out, Durham is investigating this. The Inspector General is investigating it. Let's get all the facts on the table. Let's get Trump's tax records on the table. Let's get his bank records on the table. Let's get his accounting records on the table. Let's get everything out public. I don't think anybody should be holding back anything from either side. I just don't think we've heard this investigating the investigators so many times when the Republicans control the Congress. It always amounts to nothing. I think the bigger picture here is that Barr is very smart to be engaging in some kind of accommodation with the Judiciary Committee. During 1998, during the impeachment proceedings with Ken Starr, we got all of the material from Ken Starr. We didn't have to fight Ken Starr.
But you know there was a totally different statute then, Julian, so we can't do apples to oranges.
It's a different statute. I don't think it is apples to oranges. I think when the Congress asks for information pursuant to an investigation that involves the president, Congress has the right to get all that information.
Well,
I think all the precedent is on that side.
Harmeet, and you know about these 2 different statutes, and part of these were passed in part because the Democrats didn't like how much information was flooded into the system when Ken Starr was under obligation to do it.
That's not why the statute died.
But here's the thing is that Bill Barr did not have to release this information, Harmeet. You know that. And he said he wanted to over-release information. And per the regulations, it looks like he has.
Absolutely, Shannon. And Julian did a great job of confusing a bunch of different issues and different statutes in different periods of time. But this is not the Spanish Inquisition. This is the United States system of justice where there's some due process. There's a Bill of Rights. There's a separation of powers, importantly. We heard some members of Congress in your intro there make nonsensical arguments about how Don McGahn and others have a duty to testify on behalf of the president, office of the president. It's actually the opposite. Because the president has a duty to protect the office of the president, he has instructed the president's top advisors not to testify. This is something that every prior president has done as well. So it is nonsense to suggest that that is any type of a
I just think you have a nerve.
information.
I just think you have a nerve to suggest that I'm confusing statutes and precedent without pointing them out. And you're absolutely wrong. Under the Bush administration, when the White House staff was subpoenaed, the courts all ruled that the White House staff had to appear. If there was a question of executive privilege, they would have to invoke it on a question-by-question basis. So, and the precedent on this goes back into 1977. And in every instance, the courts have always ruled that Congress has the right to get the information. So I don't know what you're talking about, me confusing statutes and precedent. I think you're the one that's confusing statutes and precedent.
Special counsel and independent counsel are 2 different statutory schemes.
It's not the statute that governs. It's Congress's constitutional right to the information. It's not the statute that's dispositive.
I think that we all could agree this is headed for the courts. It's already there, and that's probably where this will be hammered out again in 2019. So Julian and Harmeet, come back. It won't be over soon.
Thanks.
Good to have you.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right, Fox News confirming tonight Republican Congressman Justin Amash quitting the